Hey guys!
Hello!
My name's Billy.
I'm Sierra.
And this is Jetty.
We have been living on boats for the past 5 years and we just wanted to give you a little bit of our story.
So you guys might be wondering who Tula is, and we'll get to that. Right now we are on our current boat. It's a 40-foot 1988 catamaran named Adrenaline.
Adrenaline is a performance catamaran. She's old, but she's a performance catamaran, so she doesn't have a ton of living room, but she has a ton of outside space. So we've been traveling up and down the East Coast, all the way down to Grenada, and now we're making our way back up, and she's been an amazing boat to us.
But where did we start? How the heck did we get ourselves here? We are not trust fund kids, let me put that out there. We worked our butts off to get where we are today. You alright? Where are you gonna go? So I grew up on the South Shore of Long Island in New York, and you grew up in?
Sunny South Florida, town of Jupiter.
So starting in high school, my dad had all these old Boston Whaler hulls in the back of the house, and he let me fix up these hulls and then use them. And he helped me buy the engines for them, and then as I got older through high school and into college, I was able to take these Boston Whalers back and forth to the beach. A few years into that, I got an old houseboat for $500. It was just stripped, just disgusting houseboat, but my friends and family helped me put it back together. We put a couch in there, we made it really nice. And that was a boat we stayed on, me and my friends, while we lifeguarded over on Fire Island for a few summers. From there, I decided I was out of college, I was getting my foot in the door to a teaching career, which is a really good career on Long Island, but I had a little itch to travel. I wanted to be in warm weather, I wanted to explore and adventure and surf, so I started researching a lot about sailing, and I really became intrigued about sailing. And the more I read, the more I learned, the more I started to notice sailboats around. And finally, one day I saw this small little double-ender pocket cruiser sailboat in a boatyard. It looked kind of beat up, and I went to the boatyard and I said, what's the deal with that boat? So they said, you know, someone just left it here and the boatyard just wanted to get rid of it, so they said, just make an offer on it if you think you want it. Like, we just want to get rid of it. So I went back and I made an offer and I said, listen, like, it's really beat up and I don't even know if the engine runs or anything like that, so how about I'll just take it off your hands for you? That was my offer.
They didn't go for it.
They didn't go for it. They said, we need $800. So I said, all right. So I gave him $800 for this old beat up sailboat. Turned out to be a classic sailboat, a Morris Francis, double ender, nice canoe stern, solid little boat. So I got this old sailboat. I spent a whole year restoring it, learning a ton about it, and I hadn't even really sailed before that. I started kiteboarding in high school, and that's pretty much sailing. But I didn't know that at the time, so at one point in college, my buddy knew how to sail little sunfish sailboats, so he took me out on a sunfish, and he was showing me what to do and how it works and stuff, and I was like, this is the same exact thing as kiteboarding. So I caught on pretty quick on how to sail. After I restored this small sailboat, I put it in the water and I started to sail it everywhere, all across the Great South Bay, on and off anchor. I tried not to use the engine at all. I just wanted to sail in every single condition just so I learned everything about it. As I was doing the finishing touches on this small sailboat, I named her, and I named her Tula, and that's where the name Tula comes from Tula's Endless Summer, a small boat that started the whole adventure that we're on now.
What does Tula mean?
Tula means balance in Sanskrit. There's nothing super special about the name. I just saw it somewhere. I was like, oh, that's a cool name. I was trying to decide what to name this boat. It didn't have a name on it. And I looked it up and it meant balance. And I was like, oh, that's a great meaning, especially for a sailboat. So that's where Tula came from.
But balance is very important in our lives. We have to balance work, we have to balance play, we have to balance on the ocean. It wasn't meaningful when you made it, but now it is a very meaningful term.
It's everything, yeah. Balance is definitely everything.
So that's where Tula came from. Now, where'd you go on Tula?
Yeah, after I really sailed the crud out of that boat and put the finishing touches on it, and it got to be fall, and it was like September, October, and I decided I need to take it on a shakedown trip. So I sailed it from Long Island all the way up to New England. My cousin was in Nantucket at the time, so I sailed all the way to Nantucket by myself and stopped at a few places in between. And that was kind of the shakedown trip. And then I sailed it back to Long Island.
So you did your shakedown trip, then what?
Then I went back to Long Island, I made some repairs and made some tweaks, finishing touches, final preparations, and a week before Thanksgiving, I set off heading south. I just wanted to get somewhere that was warm weather, that was cool. I was thinking either Florida or the Bahamas, something like that. I didn't really know where exactly. I was doing just mostly day runs, out in an inlet, trying to get there before dark, and sleeping, going the next day. Learned a lot more stuff there. It was all solo. I learned that like after around 2 days of not stopping in the town and like walking around and hanging out and being around people, I was like starting to go a little crazy. I don't know how solo sailors do it.
I couldn't do it.
Like after 2 days, I was like, all right, I didn't even have to talk to anyone. I just had to go to like a coffee shop and like be around civilization. But anyway, I did, I don't know, maybe half of that was on the intercoastal, half of that was sailing in the ocean. A few days I did just like 1 or 2 days offshore just to test those waters. By the time I got to the Carolinas, I started to run out of money. I actually asked my mom for a loan just so I could get down to Florida. Otherwise, I would have had to stop somewhere and work. And she actually gave me a loan. She gave me a loan for like $1,000 or $2,000. I paid her back after I got a job. So after she gave me a loan, I continued on, got to Florida, and at that point I was like, all right, I just want to stop, you know, I want to find a cool, warm place, I could get a job, get back on my feet, and prepare to go a little bit further. I was passing through the Jupiter area, and I didn't see a good anchorage or anything like that, so I was like, I probably won't stop here, like, no good place to anchor. So I went another 3 or 4 miles past Jupiter, and my engine just broke. And Tula had different ideas for me, and I had to do a makeshift repair. I turned around, went 3 miles back, and found a little tiny anchorage in the mangroves, and that's where I stopped. And I started walking around town, and one of the first people I met was actually Sierra, because she worked in a kiteboarding shop, and that's where I went to apply for a job. I applied to a bunch of other restaurants and stuff like that. No one called me back, but I gave Sierra my references, and I got hired at the kiteboard shop, and that's where I started working, and that's where I met you.
Yep, so that's where I come in. After working together for a year, Billy invited me out on a date, and we had dinner on Tula, cheeseburgers. I think I still have a picture of that. And that kind of just started it all. I moved in very quickly after that. I had told him all about the Bahamas. I had been going over there for years, and we had these plans. We're gonna cross the Gulf Stream. We're gonna go spend a couple weeks in between you having to lifeguard and me being on break from school. And we set out, and we made it halfway. We weren't moving, we were actually going backwards. And at that point it was either we're gonna get to the Bahamas, where we personally haven't been on a sailboat before, at dark, or we can turn around and have an easy way back.
I didn't do a ton of research crossing to the Bahamas. I knew that you didn't want to go in the north wind because that'd be opposing the Gulf Stream current, and that can get really nasty. But we had like an east-southeast wind. I was like, all right, we can just start way down in the Keys, and then we'll just kind of tack there. And hopefully the Gulf Stream doesn't push us all the way up. Man, we were making no progress.
It was so uncomfortable. We were both seasick. We were big into racing paddle boards at that point, so we had our mount on the side of Tula with our 2 pretty brand new paddle boards, and I remember hearing like a crack like a couple hours into it, knowing my brand new board just got a huge crack in it. And then halfway we turned around, we're like, you know what, screw it. We landed in Miami on the way back, and we spent a night, and we're like, okay, we're either going back and saying, I hate sailing, we're never doing this again, or we're gonna go to the Keys and spend a couple weeks. So
that's what we did. We spent like maybe like 4 weeks sailing around the Keys, just easy sailing, really nice, just exploring.
Diving, spearfishing, like living off fish. It was amazing, we loved it. It was tight with just the 2 of us. I
don't know if I said it before, but it was only 26 foot, very simple boat.
Yeah, she didn't have a shower. She didn't have a bed, really.
Even the V-berth wasn't really a bed. The V-berth
was a closet,
and we used it as storage. Yeah. It built a frame across the 2 settees that we would have to take up every single day to be able to walk in the boat.
It was fun, but I couldn't have lived like that for very long.
Yeah, it was more of a trip situation than a full-time live-aboard situation, which was good. It was a good experiment, but I think at that point we decided if we wanted to do this on boats, we definitely needed another boat, a bigger boat with more space. We weren't like dead set on sailing.
You got a text from a friend saying, hey, there's this really good deal on a trawler. I know you like boats. Let me know if you're interested.
So it was an old trawler. It was a single engine, Ford Lehman engine, 34-foot trawler. I just love the look of it. Like the hull looks like an old fishing boat.
She was old. She was 1974.
It was a solid boat, really solid boat, and it was really cheap because it needed a ton of work, and the people we bought it from actually did a lot of work to it, but it was still only about halfway kind of restored.
And it wasn't like original work. They kind of wanted it to be kind of like a liveaboard, kind of like a dive boat, so they put like Home Depot counters in and stuff like that. It wasn't like bringing it back to like trawler life.
Yeah, it wasn't like a Bristol trawler finish, but it actually worked really well for that boat, the way it was done, and it didn't look, a lot of times when you go like Home Depot, you could get like a really away from the nautical look, and it just can be cheesy and tacky and cheap, but this was done pretty well. So we bought that boat for pretty cheap, and we did a ton of work on that boat. We sold Tula in Florida. We bought that boat in Long Island shortly after, and we lived and traveled on that trawler for 2 years.
I was still in school, so I didn't stay in the dorm room. I lived on the boat, took the dinghy to the dock, got to class. Everyone thought it was hilarious. And we worked on it the whole time. You ripped up all the rotted wood, we put in a shower, we painted the whole hull. What else did we do?
Did a lot of stuff. Big, huge deck repair, the top structure of it. Just a lot of work, trying to get it really back to where it should be. And at the time, while Sierra was in school, I was teaching kiteboard lessons up in Stewart, so we were in Manatee Pocket a good chunk of that time, and Jupiter some of that time. In between teaching kiteboard lessons in college and lifeguarding in the summer, we did a few trips over to the Bahamas on that trawler. We did 2 or 3. Just had a blast on the trawler through the Bahamas.
And we went all the way down to like the lower Exumas, and remember, this trawler is 1973, 74, and it had one engine. One
single diesel Ford Lehman engine, 120 horsepower.
And we towed Billy's 50-year-old Boston Whaler.
That was our dinghy, my 16-foot Boston Whaler. So yeah, it was a great time. Towards the end of that, we wanted another change.
And honestly, we had an entire plan to sell the trawler, get a slide-in camper, and drive through Central and South America. So around my graduation, Billy's like, are you really sure you want to get off the water and you want to sell the boat and you want to go live in a truck? And I was like, well, if you can find us a catamaran, I'll stay on the water.
I ruined Sierra's perception about monohulls because Tula was a small 26-foot monohull. I constantly had her powered up, so we were always heeling pretty good. And it moves around a lot. It's a small boat.
We don't have a lot of money.
We didn't, especially at that time, have a lot of money at all.
So
we just only had pretty much what we had from the sale of our trawler.
Exactly. So same thing with Tula. We sold Tula in order to get another boat, made a little bit of money from all the restoration work you did, used that money to buy the trawler, used the money extra to redo the boat. Same thing, sell the trawler, use the money to get either a camper or a boat. So I told Billy, if you want to stay on the water, find us a catamaran. He was on Craigslist 2 seconds after searching, found one, got us one, we're staying on the water.
The thing about catamarans is, first off, they're freaking expensive, and if they're not expensive, they're old and there's nothing performance about them, usually. You can find newer ones for cheap, but they're not blue water boats. They have low bridge deck clearance, they're kind of narrow, not super fast. Great for coastal cruising maybe, and the intracoastal and stuff like that, but that's not what I wanted. I wanted a catamaran that could do what catamarans should be able to do, and that's go far, go fast, and something that was in our price range, which wasn't a lot of money.
So he's like, I found us a boat, and he shows me the ad, and the ad title was Catamaran for Adventure, very low headroom. Like, that was the title.
It was a funky ad in the first place. I think the ad just turned a lot of people off. It probably helped us out a little bit. But I looked up exactly what the boat was all about. So that's this boat, and she is a 1988 Crowther Spindrift catamaran. It's 40 foot, and yeah, there's a huge pedigree of these boats, a real cult following with Crowther design catamarans, and that's kind of how it was with our other boats as well. Old classics that people really like. It needed a ton of work, but it was the only thing we could afford in what we wanted, so we bought it.
We have a system of doing a trip, doing work from what we find from that trip broke or what needs to be changed.
And the work that we do isn't just maintenance, it's always been improving the boat, fixing things that broke, but also upgrading everything, bringing the boat back to a really solid, sailable boat.
We have ripped up tons and tons of rotted wood. We have taken out the windows and replaced all the rotted wood around the windows, replaced them. redone all the rigging. We have done crazy projects on this boat. So remember, that's how we were able to afford it, because it needed all this work.
Yeah.
And now, here we are.
This past year, we went through the Bahamas again, but we decided for hurricane season, we wanted to go all the way down the Caribbean, and that was one of the big factors in why we wanted to get back on the sailboat, so we could do much further trips and not have to pay for a lot of fuel and not have to rely on one single diesel engine. And this boat's been great for that. So that's who Tula is. Small little sailboat that started this whole adventure, the endless summer.
And that's how we've been able to make it work and go travel and have fun and share our story with you guys. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you for coming on all of these adventures with us.
Make sure to subscribe below and leave a comment. Let us know what you like about these videos. Let us know what you wish to see, and we'll try to keep getting it out there for you.
And we hope to see you guys all out on the water someday. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys soon.